Hello, this is Dr. Joel B. Goodin. I'll be talking about PSY 7103 Research Methods Assignment 3. And here we have some content. Use the evidence from your previous article readings to present the research area, and from that body of evidence present a potential research problem. First thing I'll say is you may not have been reading articles that were strategically supporting a problem, a research problem, which is something wrong in the discipline, such as a research gap, or something that's occurring that needs to be addressed. Use the evidence from your previous article. So you may have to get into readings that were not included in your previous readings. That's just something I want to touch upon, because sometimes if you only depend on the readings that you've had, then you might not have a sufficient problem. And then you're going to have a body of evidence from which to present a potential research problem. That is the goal of this assignment. It does include a few other things, but the main goal is to present a potential research problem as you would in your dissertation. Of course, it's not going to be as thorough and well supported as a dissertation problem, but now's the time to start practicing and developing, hopefully, a research problem that you can use later. Write a paper to identify your potential research problem by including these things. First, introduce your area, okay? And I'm going to pull up what generally you're asked for in an introduction. Now, you don't necessarily have to do all these things, but normally you're asked to begin with an overview of the general topic, to establish the context of the study and orient the reader to the field. So just start out with sort of, here's the topic, here's the context of the study that I'm going to sort of talk about. Yours is going to be very truncated, quite concise, and somewhat short. You're not going to say once upon a time, but you will sort of start presenting some statistics, sort of what's going on in the world that can be funneled down from this sort of broader topic area to a very specific problem that will follow your introduction. So you're going to describe the larger context in which the problem exists, explain how the problem can be addressed by the study. So you're not going to exactly say the problem yet, but you're going to say there are some issues with depressed people reconsidering reattempting suicide after they've been treated in a psych ward, or something, whatever your topic is. And so without sort of being explicit about the problem to be addressed by this research study, you can sort of talk around it and say there's problems, there's issues going on, like that repeat suicidality, things like that a study, there's really a research gap there that needs to be understood, and you can start talking about how a hypothetical research study, the one you're about to do, could accomplish that. Present an overview of why this research topic is relevant and warranted. I normally suggest using those words. The study is relevant and warranted because of the increasing frequency of post-psychotherapeutic suicide treatment resulting in suicidal reattempts. Should have said. So something like that. The study is relevant and warranted because of the increasing frequency of suicidal reattempts that occur post-psychotherapeutic suicide treatment stays, like psych ward stays. I'm just making this up, so your wording needs to be a little more clear, a little more put together. But that's an example of how you can just say it's relevant and warranted. Here, the larger context is so you provide a citation there. So just provide sort of a context. In a weird, so you might say something. You know, just talk about sort of the issue specifically, and then the larger context, and then use the words, just establish why it's relevant and warranted. You might even add so just sort of put it in context, say why it's important. You're sort of establishing, here's all the basic information you need to know to get started with my study. Yours isn't going to be real long here, but I'm sort of elaborating a bit because you're eventually going to use this type of same method, this same sort of method to prepare an introduction to your dissertation, chapter 1. Briefly explain what research has been done on the topic and why the topic is important practically and empirically. It's been found, however, what is not known are the reasons for vulnerability post-therapeutic suicide stays. Pardon the wording there, it's not as clear as I'd like. What is not known are the reasons for What is not known are the reasons for, so you're sort of saying, here's the research been done on the topic and why the topic is important practically and empirically. Generally, I pull, for this, I say, things like this, because it asks, why is the topic is important practically, empirically, and theoretically? So why not have 3 sentences? The first being practically, second being empirically, I just changed the word, and theoretically. And so practically is really about what is it going to change in real life, practice, behavior. What is it going to change in terms of research? This is why it's needed. There's a gap in the research. Or theoretically, the theory that is most relevant to this topic needs to be expanded to better understand suicidal reattempts or something like that. Maybe maybe the focus is primarily just on the primary suicide attempt, the initial suicide attempt, rather than on reattempts, when maybe the theory needs to be expanded to cover that. And so here again, you're saying here's the research that's been done. You'll want more than one study, so there'd be a citation here. Why the topic is important practically and empirically, as well as theoretically. And then clearly this is sort of did you do it sort of thing. Check. Check and check. Now yours is likely to be a lot shorter for this particular assignment, but if you go ahead and sort of go through all these steps, then you're going to be preparing yourself and practicing for your dissertation, which is one of the goals of research methods, in my opinion. So now we get down to the heart of the matter of this assignment. Write a problem statement of no more than 500 words. Typically it's shorter than that when we get to the dissertation. Begin with, the problem to be addressed by this study is. So a lot of people skip that, and I don't know why, so let's put it in there. And then I normally say by the proposed study is to explore perceptions of vulnerability after suicidal hospital stays. I should say vulnerability to reattempts after suicidal hospital stays. And then one thing it's clearly going to ask you, this statement should logically flow from the intro and clearly identify the problem to be addressed by the study. That's what I've done with using these words. And it logically flows from what I discussed just above. Yours should, whatever topic you're on, should clearly follow from the intro. So it shouldn't be a surprise to anyone what your research problem is. They should all but be able to guess it, just almost the exact wording that you might use. Offer a brief discussion of the problem and provide evidence of its existence. If you're doing a research, a dissertation, I would ask for 15 citations. For this assignment, I typically accept 5. They need to be current, scholarly, peer-reviewed, that justify the problem. They say in their writing that this is a problem that needs to be researched. Okay, and so therefore you're briefly discussing the problem and evidence that it exists, that it's a real problem. You're not saying what you're going to do about it. You're saying, so I always tell my students, focus on the fire rather than putting out the fire. What is the problem? The problem is suicidal reattempts are going through the roof, so to speak. You're going to want to use scholarly language, of course, in citations. The problem is that. And don't talk about, therefore, we need to explore this and this and this. So now let's look back. Explore perceptions. This is a purpose statement. So what is the problem statement? I get this over and over and over again, and I wanted to show that to you as an example. Here is a purpose statement. It's what you're going to do about the fire instead of what the fire is. So instead of this, let's talk about what the fire actually is. I'm making this up, but something like that. This is the fire. It's not telling you, it's not skipping ahead and saying what you're going to do about it. It's saying this is the issue. You may not even have a citation here, because what you're going to do so this could be the problem. And then you might cite females, just you're just explaining, here are the different pieces of evidence, things you've read, pieces of information, findings from studies that say individuals are vulnerable to suicidal reattempts after hospital stays. So Eagers, and then say whatever they said, and then another study. Okay, and then you're actually going to just save this. I put it in an email to yourself if you want, and save it for what will be the next section of the dissertation, which will be a different assignment in the research methods course. Offer a brief discussion of the problem. I've already started doing that here, so I'm going to move this down. And then don't forget, this is wording from what's called the DPDM, Dissertation Proposal, Dissertation Manuscript Template, which you can find online, I believe, in the Center for Teaching and Learning resources. And so you're going to identify who is influenced by the problem. And here you can mainly use logic instead of citations. If you have citations, great, include that, but you may not. just something like that. Maybe not use shaken. We try to avoid hyperbole in our study or any sort of really emotionally laden words. But of course, this topic is pretty emotional. So I've identified who is influenced by the problem. What I haven't done yet is what is unknown that should be known. So you might give an example of somebody that said this. We don't really understand how they're vulnerable, but they are vulnerable according to our problem. So what is not known? By researching vulnerabilities to reattempts, suicidal behaviors may be curbed. It doesn't have to be that simple, but what are the potential negative consequences? However, by not doing the proposed research, suicidal reattempts are likely to continue to occur or increase, potentially. Right, so then support your assignment with at least 5 of the resources you used for last week's annotated bibliography. As I've said before, it may not come from that previous reading. You may have read some stuff and annotated it and realized, hey, this article's not amazing. So you might want to grab some new literature that really does hit on the topic that you want to do and really does identify a problem. There's plenty of articles out there that really don't identify a problem that you're going to be interested in, or that converges with what other researchers have said. In addition to these specified resources, other appropriate scholarly resources, including seminal articles, may be included. And so that's basically what I'm saying. Length, 4 to 5 pages, not including title and reference pages. In order to really do this, you're going to want to focus on sort of having a short intro and really beefing up the problem, because that's the main goal of this assignment. Your assignment should demonstrate thoughtful consideration of the ideas and concepts. Again, you're not going to use a lot of direct quotes. You're going to paraphrase using your own words. In the course, by providing new thoughts and insights, you're going to show that you've thought about this and that you understand the material that you've read. Your response should reflect scholarly writing and current APA standards. Although we're not really grading on this, the ability that you have to communicate your assignment material is largely affected by your ability to write in a scholarly way, especially if it's really awful. It can be prohibitive, so that I don't understand what you're trying to say, therefore I don't see a clear problem, I don't see a clear justification for that problem. And so scholarly writing and current APA standards are not directly graded necessarily, unless there's like an academic integrity violation or something like that, as stated in the next sentence, but they can seriously get in the way of you showing the quality of your work. So do be sure not to have matching content, plagiarism. Just go back, look at the Turnitin report, use a pre-Turnitin report if you can, to sort of check, oh, did I make sure to paraphrase everything? Doing that can be very helpful. Again, we want to trust you to just do your own work and to learn to paraphrase well during the process. You may not be very adept at it at this point, but you should sort of build upon that. And this looks like I didn't erase it from the last time. So 4 to 5 pages. It may be longer if you actually do the intro the way that I was suggesting. If you have questions, feel free to email me. I look forward to seeing what you do. Thank you.